Are back here talking The Mandalorian, Chapter 13, The Jedi. Joining me today on the line, somebody I last talked to in September. We did NFL picks with this guy, Kevin Lillis here. Kevin, how are you?
Mike, I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I have to say, it's a lot more fun watching this than watching the Jets play.
Yeah, very much so. At least it has a happier ending at every episode, whereas the Jets are just. This is a bad topic to start on, Mike.
Hey, put it this way: it's like I'm as happy after the Jets lose a game as I am watching these episodes of the show.
But you know what? If the Jets keep losing, I really don't think that what's his name from Clemson is going to come out, because who would want to join this organization if Adam Gase is still at the helm?
Well, he's not going to be at the helm. They're going 0-16. Even I just counting down the days till he leaves.
I don't know, man. Hugh Jackson went 0-16 in Cleveland, and I think he was back the following year.
Yeah, but that's not neat.
So, well, I'm not gonna count on anything just yet. But yeah, let's get talking to something a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah, let's get a little more entertaining. Talk about The Mandalorian. Tell me what drew you into this show when it first came out.
Oh well, I mean, growing up and like my dad got me into the Star Wars trilogies, and when you saw Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back, he just had this, presence on screen, this anonymity that, he looks so cool. You don't know who he is. He has such few lines. Usually, like in movies and TV shows, the characters that have the fewest lines are sometimes the most memorable. Like I always say, Creed in The Office is one of the best characters in TV because he has so few lines, and those few lines that he says are always gold. And that, to me, that was like Boba Fett, because he had a very small appearance in the original trilogy, spoke very little, but he had made such an impression on Star Wars fans forever. And even when the Phantom Menace and the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith came out, and you got into Jango Fett and learning about the clones, and then you saw a young Boba Fett, and then came the Mandalorian. And I remember when they were talking about making a Mandalorian TV show, I said, I don't know how this is going to work. Because Boba Fett spoke so little, because Jango Fett wasn't really that featured. But they managed to work with it because of Grogu, which we found out is the name of Baby Yoda. So it's unbelievable that, a television title character who doesn't reveal his face is able to be so successful, because he has this little partner by his side, his little good luck token, as he likes to refer to it in this latest episode.
Yeah, it is.
But that's what drew me to, the Mandalorian race, Mandalorian race from the planet Mandalore. It's, I don't know. I think it has to do with the seclusion of the race or whatever that makes it, like, the Jedis are cool, the Sith are cool, but the Mandalorians are like, wear a mask, you don't know who they are. It's this anonymity thing that people love about the Mandalorians, and that's what drew me to it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a very fun show, because this is very different, very classic Star Wars, the way compared to like the sequel trilogy got very lost at points, getting convoluted, doing all sorts of crazy things. This is very much like, okay, it's a simple world. We're following this guy around, and he's got his code of ethics. He's got his little sidekick, and we're going all around the galaxy, seeing like all the outliers, and that's a lot of fun to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I was reading an article there a few weeks ago, and they kind of make it like it seemed like a video game quest, and it makes sense, because we're jumping from planet to planet to planet to planet, all planets that are mentioned in canon. And Jon Favreau is really lucky to have Dave Filoni as not only as a partner, but as like a really close friend. The two of them work really well together. I just want to see more episodes or things from Taika Waititi, especially if he's going to be taking on, I don't know, I keep hearing the rumors that the next 3 Star Wars trilogy episodes that are going to come out, rumored to come out, would possibly be filmed by or directed by Taika Waititi. who did the Guardians, not the Guardians, Thor.
Ragnarok.
What can I think of? Yes, and he's brilliant. And he was the IG unit in the first Mandalorian season. He was very witty, very funny for a robot. But yeah, I mean, so far this season has been pretty. Up until now, this season 2, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of lukewarm to me. But this latest episode is probably the most important episode of the 2 seasons right now, in my opinion. I mean, we learned
a lot.
So I don't know how you want to break this down, but yeah. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in this episode.
There is, and we're not going to wait any longer. Put the good old spoiler warning up.
Yep.
Okay, if you have not seen Chapter 13, The Jedi of the Mandalorian, stop the podcast, go watch the episode if you care about being spoiled. Otherwise, stick around with us because it's a lot to go in with. And we were teased 2 episodes ago about Ahsoka Tano coming back into the show, and we start right there. And I think like her introduction sequence where she's picking off all these like soldiers in the jungle, in the forest, and then we see the showdown outside the town. That was a very fun way to introduce her to the show.
It was great, and my first thought about that episode wasn't just Ahsoka just yet. It was the atmosphere of where she was, and it kind of reminded me of that Game of Thrones episode, the long night, the one that everyone was always annoyed about because of how dark it was. But they did a really good job, partially because Ahsoka's got these 2 bright lightsabers, so she's able to you're able to see her, but she's able to mold back into the dark with her cloak and take out these soldiers that are working for the magistrate. But the feel of the beginning was really, really good. And the new I love how every episode has like a cameo, but this is a big cameo for me because the Terminator, Michael Biehn, was in it. The Reese from the Terminator, as well as he was also in Aliens. I can't think of his name, but yeah, the cameo selection and Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka is so spot on, and she carries herself just like she did in Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, they also did a spot on job with like the makeup too. That looks exactly like the cartoon version, which I think props to them for getting every detail correct there.
Yep. And honestly, I didn't expect Rosario Dawson to be picked. I had no idea who could play Ahsoka in live action, but she's fulfilled it, and I really hope this isn't the only time or the last time that we see her.
Yeah, anyway, we get this battle. She goes to basically the edge of this town. We see Reese from the Terminator there. We see the magistrate up on top of there, and Ahsoka basically says, "Give my information, or I'm gonna tear your town apart, and you have a day to comply." And then as we get the next day, we see Mando shows up in town and looking for information. And I thought it was definitely a fun sequence there, especially once we get into see from his point of view the 2 separate worlds of town. We see like the village part where it's basically blocked off. It's like really in poverty, and then you go behind the gate and you see like the Japanese garden style like Zen fortress the magistrate lives in. Definitely a nice little dichotomy between the 2 styles of living in that area.
Yes, yeah, that's what I have to say. Like the atmosphere that was on this, like Dave Filoni wrote and directed this episode, and you could kind of tell because like Jon Favreau's, when he writes and directs, or if it's anyone else, because sometimes they bring in the guest directors, there's not so much a dark aspect. Like Dave Filoni is able to bring that dark aspect to it because he's basically the keeper of the Star Wars lore. I mean, he knows everything about anything, and I love seeing him in, I think it was episode 2 when he was the X-Wing, the New Republic X-Wing pilot, which was really cool. But Dave Filoni is, he is the man for this episode. I'm really hoping to see him write and direct a few more, and possibly like Ahsoka is the Mandalorian is a big character, but we don't know anything about him. But Ahsoka is a massive character in Star Wars. Like in between the trilogies, she is a huge critical character because she was Anakin's apprentice, and they kind of allude to that. I don't know if you want to jump to that right now when the Mandalorian meets Ahsoka, and Ahsoka finds out the name of Baby Yoda being Grogu, and the whole connection that Baby Yoda has with the Mandalorian, even though the Mandalorian was tasked to give Grogu to the Jedi, Ahsoka can't train Grogu because of the connection that Grogu has with the Mandalorian, and it you kind of get that reference when she says, "I see what happens to Jedi's when they can't let go of their feelings, like what happened to Anakin Skywalker."
Yeah, we'll get more into that in a minute, but obviously we're going to the village. We make a note of the random guy that Mando tries to get information from. He'll come up again later, but we do see him meet with the magistrate, and she has a spear, made a solid Beskar.
Oh yeah,
that spear was pretty dope. I mean, that's an incredible weapon. I can see why she thinks, oh, this is enough to tempt him, because he'll want the Beskar and he'll want the spear, and he'll go do my dirt and kill Ahsoka Tano for me.
It's a Mandalorian weapon, this spear, which makes me wonder, like the history behind the magistrate. They kind of go into it a little bit in this episode, but the magistrate loses her family and her people during the Clone Wars. But it makes me wonder how she was able to get a hold of a spear like this. I can only imagine that a Mandalorian may have visited this planet before that they may have killed, and that's how they got a hold of the spear. But Beskar is so important to the Mandalorian race.
Yeah, it really
but
is.
Also want to see like a bit more backstory to the magistrate. So I can only imagine like the next couple of episodes, they should really start to take off, because the previous episodes of this left us with a really, really big army in waiting, and we never got to see any more of it in this episode. But I mean, I guess you can only put so much into an hour.
Yeah, indeed. And I think the magistrate's name is Morgan Elsbeth. And is this a character from the Clone Wars show, or is this a new character they invented for Mandalorian?
She was from the Clone Wars. She was slightly mentioned in the Clone Wars show. She didn't have a big role, but the one character from the Clone Wars, his name has been mentioned in this episode, but I don't know if we want to get to that just yet. I have a lot I'm super excited about this episode, Mike, because for my debut on to talk about The Mandalorian, I got quite the episode to talk about.
Yes, you did. And I mean, for anybody who knows Dave Filoni, director of this episode, like as Kevin mentioned, he's sort of the keeper of the animated Star Wars lore. Like, he was the big voice behind Clone Wars and Rebels, the two animated series that they've been bringing more into canon as a result of The Mandalorian into the live-action universe. And it makes a ton of sense that he's got a ton of references from both shows into these episodes, and it's basically introducing plot elements that could help bring the show forward. We figured out back in season 1 when they introduced the Darksaber in the finale. But anyway, we do get the meeting going forward here. We do see Mando go out into the jungle. He never explicitly agrees to kill Ahsoka Tano. Then they have the fight there, and I do think it was very cool that like Mando gets himself owned very quickly in that fight.
Oh yeah, I mean it was I didn't know how it was going to play out, because we've never really seen the Mandalorians and Jedis fight in any of the movies. They never. I mean, besides Luke with a little fight with Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi, as well as like a slight duel in The Empire Strikes Back in the Cloud City. But I mean, we never really saw a big fight between Jedi and Mandalorian, so we never really knew how it was going to go. But now we know that Beskar steel is able to hold up to lightsabers, because a lot of people immediately think like Star Wars, like the casual Star Wars fan, they could see this lightsaber as being able to cut through anything. But Beskar is so incredibly strong that even like some lightsabers aren't able to penetrate through it. But yeah, I mean, it was a quick little fight, but I knew it wasn't going to go any further than a little duel between the two of them.
Yeah, then Mando stops and just basically says, "Hey, Bo-Katan sent me, and I have to talk to you." And she figures out it's about the child, and she basically has a little powwow with him. He doesn't speak, but they can communicate telepathically with the Force, and we have a lot of information about his backstory here. We learn his name is Grogu, and then he was raised on a Jedi temple in Coruscant. He got hidden during the Purge. That's why he ended up getting slaughtered. He stays there for a while. He gets taken from the temple eventually, and that's where his memory goes away because he senses a lot of darkness there. So what do you think of that big info dump we got on Grogu?
that was a massive information dump to have, because now we found out that he was actually being trained. Like, there was this kind of feeling that he was just, I don't know, stumbled upon by, regular people that found that he was force sensitive. But now we find out he was actually being trained at the Jedi Temple at Coruscant, and he managed to live through Order 66 as well. And we now have two Jedi, that lived through Order 66. It was Ahsoka and now the child, which makes you wonder, like, how many other Jedi are out there that lived through the Purge. There was, in the video game, the new Jedi video game that came out, there was you played a character that escaped the Purge, which gave you like this really cool look into how the Empire was falling into place back then. And I like to see all these side stories, because we didn't really know what happened to Ahsoka after the end of Rebels, and it's gonna maybe pan out to maybe some flashback episode for Baby Yoda. I don't know, escaping like Yoda did during the Purge, through like the hidden vents, which makes you wonder if maybe Yoda rescued Baby Yoda, and managed to rescue him somehow.
I don't think it's Baby Yoda rescuing, because she makes a point to say that it's very dark after he gets taken from the temple, so you don't know, like, maybe a more sinister force takes him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then like, maybe he suppressed the memory, because like it's not a good one at that point. So
maybe it was what's the name of the doctor? Not the doctor. Oh God, the bad guy in the first episode, the famous director. I can't think of his name. Oh God.
Werner.
Yeah, Werner Herzog, that famous that director. Maybe he had some kind of a deal in getting Baby Yoda out of the temple.
Yes. Anyway, she talks to him. We get the info dump, and then we learn. And then she's gonna test him the next morning, and then they do like a very simple test of, I have a rock. Like take the rock from him with the Force. He doesn't want to do it. She has Mando step in to do it, and then Mando can't get to do with the rock, but he brings out the little toy ball from the lever from Mando's ship that he wants to play with all the time, and then he immediately just takes with the Force, and then Ahsoka's like, I can't do this. He's too attached to you. And as you point out earlier, this is clearly a direct reference to what happened with Anakin Skywalker. He's like, I don't want to send this kid down this path.
Yeah.
I think a very good callback.
It was a spectacular callback, but I mean, this is to be expected from such a big character like Ahsoka. I mean, she had such a huge role in the animated universe that we need to, but she didn't unpack it. It was too much for, like, I always imagine that this show is like mostly being watched by a super Star Wars fan and then like a casual partner next to him or someone like that. So it's great when I'm able to talk to someone like you, Mike, where I'm able to geek out on this stuff, because Ahsoka could have her own TV show as is, honestly, like her own live action TV show as is. And I wouldn't be surprised, because she's still on her quest that wasn't completed during Rebels. Like, she's such a big character. They can't just leave it here. And I have a feeling they're going to follow the same recipe, where the end episode of the season is going to involve everyone that Mando has come across in these past couple episodes. So I don't know. And we also the Razor Crest is still being tracked. So, the Empire is following him to get to Baby Yoda, or Grogu. I have to start calling him Grogu now.
Yeah, I think all those names are interchangeable here, but we do end up having this sequence here where Mando basically says, look, like, they sent me to kill you. I promised I wouldn't do that. I didn't promise anything at this point, but, like, I was tasked to get into a Jedi, so here's your deal. I'll help you with your problem. We'll free the village, and then you train the child, which she goes along with, and we get the very fun sequence where they're trying to take the village back, and she comes in, basically says, look, I killed your Mandalorian that you sent after me. Like, give me your information or like, and you'll get to live. And we get this whole fight out where she takes all the soldiers off. Mando flies in, frees the prisoners from those very awful prison towers that they had going on there. And they do get a lot of, like, the light play again. They do this battle again at night. And this gave me vibes of the episode on the Republic prison ship in season 1 where we had the dark, and we see the soldiers creeping around, and we see like Ahsoka coming up behind them as she kills them. Like very fun vibes compared to that past episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's very like the setting of Caladan gave us that kind of like the Seven Samurai type feel. Like it had obvious very Asian Japanese Asian influences in style and architecture, and the atmosphere of this planet undergoing climate change because the magistrate is using the planet to help. Well, when she was helping to build the Imperial Starfleet. So the dust and the fog and the change in the atmosphere like helped Ashoka act kind of like a ninja almost in this Asian felt planet, and she was able to use these dark alleyways to her advantage and the rooftops like a ninja would.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then you see like those moments where like she pulls up her lightsaber and like pulls it across her face, and Rosario Dawson's face lights up, and she kind of gives like this kind of smile, like "Aha, I got you." But I mean, those soldiers stood no chance. But it was really cool seeing the battle droids that were next to the magistrate. Those haven't made an appearance since Clone Wars, which I thought was kind of cool.
They have not. There's also a big reference back to, again, one of my favorite games, Knights of the Old Republic. Those are like the HK assassin droids. Like those.
Yes, yeah.
This is like the more modern version of it, because I think they were called HK-87s in the show. The one in the game was
You're absolutely right.
Was HK-47s. So this is like several generations advanced. It was definitely a fun poll, and I did like the dueling sort of duels we had here, where it was cool to not have Mando be the main action piece of the final sequence. We had the big fight between Ahsoka and the Magistrate, whereas Mando and our buddy Reese from Terminator, I forget his actual character name, are outside, basically like as the seconds to the duel. Like they're winning, and they're waiting to see what happens at the duel.
I'm not sure if Reese had a name in the show, if they mentioned it. I'm not sure if they did. I think he was just like called the henchman. I think that's how he was credited. Yeah. But I'd be interested to know what his name was.
Let's call him Reese just to make our lives simpler.
Yeah. Oh, Hicks. That's his name from Aliens.
Yeah.
He played Hicks in Aliens. I finally remember.
Yeah.
But it was really cool seeing him. He's got kind of like this Dennis Hopper vibe to him. I don't know. He's got like these crazy eyes now. He's definitely aged into this, Dennis Hopper looking dude, and he even sounds a little bit like Dennis Hopper in his younger days, like Speed.
Yeah, he does, and they have this exchange outside where they're kind of like, okay, like your side's fighting my side in there. We'll see who wins, and like I have no quarrel with you. Basically, he tries to trick him into like letting his guard down, and of course, Mando's not going to fall for that. And epic defeat there for good old Reese.
Yeah. Oh, that's what the other thing. The as you mentioned, the dichotomy before between the Japanese gardens and the spaghetti western outside showdown with Reese. That I immediately thought of Kill Bill when Ashoka was facing the magistrate. Yeah. And it's kind of funky because like as I was doing a bit more research into the show, I forgot to mention this, that the lady that plays the magistrate, Diana Lee, her name is Inosanto, I think.
Yeah.
She's actually the goddaughter of Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then to have like this Kill Bill-esque showdown with Rosario Dawson in this Japanese garden was really, really just, it was super cool. And Michael Biehn doing this kind of, I don't know, good and the bad, the ugly, like putting his weapon down to try and trick Mando, but then Mando just calls him out right there and blasts him.
Yeah. And
then like turns around and blasts the HK-87 unit up on the roof. Cause I forgot that unit climbed up on the roof, and he said, "Where's this guy going to come in?"
Yeah, and that one, let's give a hat tip to our random villager guy who points at me. I was like, "Hey, look out!" And then he gets rewarded for that later on. But we'll go back into the main duel between Ahsoka and the Magistrate, and we get the line after Ahsoka wins that broke the Star Wars internet. Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? I'm sure as a big Star Wars guy, your brain just exploded.
It is, because now they're after introducing Moff Gideon is a huge, big bad guy character. Like he is the bad guy character for this right now. But now they're after introducing like the next big bad guy character, which is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I'm stuck wondering if he's actually going to be featured in this season, because if it does, this is now taking on like a huge character arc. Like, Thrawn is one of the most like notorious characters, especially from Rebels, and with Ahsoka, like that is her number one villain. But now, like, Gideon is still the Mandalorian's number one villain, but now that after throwing Thrawn into this could really make this television show just like shoot for the stars now, because they're after opening up a huge swath of the galaxy essentially, because Thrawn is just so ruthless in his abilities to go and plunder planet to planet to planet. But it makes me wonder, we need to talk about this, like, who could play Thrawn, because I think, in my opinion, Benedict Cumberbatch would play an excellent Thrawn. I don't know what you think.
I haven't put any thoughts in there yet, but for the casual audience who's not familiar with Thrawn, when's the last time we actually saw him in Rebels?
Oh, God, I can't remember. I need to brush up on my Rebels references the last time I saw him.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now, because I know that they were... Stuff basically said, like, the last we saw in Rebels, that he was going off somewhere with Ezra Bridgen.
That wasn't the episode where they fighting when Ahsoka fights Vader. I don't think that's the same episode. Or the World Between Worlds. I can't remember now.
Yeah, but like it's been a minute since he's been in the show, and
it's been like since 2017, 2016.
Yeah, and like
at least.
Yeah, that leads to another theory we had, though. But before we get to the end of the episode there, we do see the village is liberated. Mando gets the Beskar spear, and our random villager guy is helping out. All of a sudden, he's like now the mayor of the town. Like, I feel like that's a very quick decision to make.
Yeah. For, again, someone who doesn't have a lot of lines becomes very important. Yeah. I think he said, like, he just said, don't talk to us, and then behind you. And now he's the mayor of town on Caladan.
Yeah. That's an incredible rise to power there.
Yeah, it's very definitely not Trump-esque. I'll tell you that. It's someone who spoke the least amount and immediately became mayor, unless he was already mayor before what's her face, the magistrate, showed up. Maybe he was like some kind of leader. I mean, we don't really know much about him.
Yeah, but he's the man of the people. I guess Ahsoka did not want to stick around and be in charge of this village, so she said, I trust you. You seem like a nice guy. You run the town.
Well, I can only imagine. Well, you see, her mission's not done because she's on the hunt to find Thrawn. That's her mission still.
Yeah, and then we end up getting to the end of the episode where we think Mando is going to give Grogu over to Ahsoka to be trained, and then she says, "I can't do it. I just can't do it." And he's like, "I still have to get into a Jedi." She tells him, "Take him to an ancient Jedi temple on Tython, place him on the Seeing Stone on top of the mountain, and let the child choose his path. He reads out of the Force, another Jedi will come searching for him." So she also finds out that there are not many Jedi left, so I think this is an interesting place to leave off with the quest here, and I think you gotta figure that they're going there and he's gonna reach out and some Jedi will come find him. Yeah,
I mean, that's what I mean. I'm trying to rack my mind as to what Jedi is going to find him. I mean, there's a lot in the Jedi lore. Tython, I'm not too familiar with being a planet, but I mean the Jedi Star Wars game that came out a while ago, you actually kind of followed this path of finding your kyber crystal and finding your building your lightsaber, which makes you wonder. It must be some kind of temple that is on this planet, and they said the Seeing Stone, I believe, is what he's going to place Baby Yoda on, or it's still acceptable to call him Baby Yoda, because I think that I'm going to be stuck calling him that from now on. I don't know if I can subject myself to Grogu just yet.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting. It's going to open up a whole cast of characters that we don't know yet, and there's definitely more Jedi out there. Obviously, because Ahsoka had mentioned them. Obviously, not a lot, but there's still Jedi out there. But it also, I started to speculate more and more. I don't know if you want to get into speculation just yet, or the episode is pretty much done.
Yeah, it is. I think we can get into speculation because I have a theory out there from IGN about who the Jedi will be, and it's somebody we've seen before in Rebels.
Oh, you were thinking Ezra?
Ezra Bridger seems like the main candidate here because he's also a Mandalorian, so this also might also tie in very nicely to having Mando be connected to this.
That's true. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I mean, who would play Ezra then?
There's a lot of buzz on the internet that the guy who played Owen from Haunting of Bly Manor is a candidate for that role.
Oh man, that guy, he in Haunting of Bly Manor as well as Haunting of Hill House, he played the brother. He was very good. I'm
talking about the guy who plays the cook in Bly Manor.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was the cook. I was thinking the brother from Hill House. My bad. Yeah. Owen as Ezra. Yeah, I guess I could see it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of buzz on the internet about him sort of being cast in that role. It has not been officially confirmed yet, but I feel like Ezra is sort of our leading contender here to be the teacher for Grogu.
I could see that happening for sure. It just makes you wonder. I'm starting to speculate further, as in a few seasons now from The Mandalorian, of which way they can go with this, because Grogu is still very young, and their race. I mean, Yoda was over 800 years old, I believe, when he died in Return of the Jedi. So, are they gonna, for the future of this franchise, is Baby Yoda going to remain this small? Is he ever going to talk and have words? Is he going to talk like Yoda? Is this eventually going to take? Because we're in between the fall of the Empire and the rise of the First Order. Are we going to see an appearance from Mark Hamill? Maybe when he's putting together the new Jedi Order and he's raising Kylo Ren. Are we going to see Baby Yoda take a position like a rival there at that temple? I don't know how this franchise is going to, or is it going to be its own thing? Is it going to have its own trajectory and make references to what's going on? The First Order really comes to power 30 years afterwards, and I believe that The Mandalorian takes place 5 or 10 years after the fall of the Empire.
Yeah, I think it's 5. So five after Return of the Jedi is what we've been told.
Okay, so we're starting into the build-up of the First Order. Obviously, Moff Gideon is trying to, make the framework to building it again, because he's just a fanatic. And it makes me wonder if there is going to be an appearance by Mark Hamill, or even a young, maybe Han Solo will make an appearance as well, the guy who played it in the Solo movies. Or maybe an appearance from Woody Harrelson. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot to take in here, and the fact that Disney owns the franchise, I don't know. We'll see how it's gonna unpack.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things here. I think the rest of this season, I feel like the track is we're gonna end up in some sort of showdown between Moff Gideon and Mando and whatever team of friends Mando can assemble to fight over the child. That's gonna be coming this year. I feel like we're also sort of on a parallel track here. I think we are pre-Battle of Jakku, which is about this time frame. I wonder if we get to see that in the show, or at least see the ramifications of it on Mando's quest. I think that's something worth watching here. But I think any Grand Admiral Thrawn stuff, I don't think we're going to see until a third season. I feel like it's too late in the game to really get the ball rolling much on that.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree to that. But the Battle of Jakku, that would be a really, really cool thing to see. I want to see more flashbacks. I want to see more of Mando's prior. I want to see his training as a Mandalorian, the way when he was growing up. Because all we saw is him being rescued on some planet, and then all of a sudden, it turns into this brand new, this is the character, and we don't know much about him.
Yeah, I think the other unresolved question we have in this episode is is this a wrap for Ahsoka Tano this season, or are we seeing her at the end of the year? I think I would go with it. This is a wrap for this season, but she becomes a bigger presence in the future of the show.
I would think, honestly, I have this creeping suspicion that they're still following the same formula as the last season, where he's going from planet to planet to planet and meeting all these people and kind of assembling a sort of team and I have a feeling they're going to arrive back on some other planet, maybe Navarro, and that's where they fight Moff Gideon there, or Tatooine, and they, because I really, really hope that Boba Fett, who we saw in the first episode of the season at the end, I really want him to make an appearance again because we haven't seen much of Boba Fett's armor since. Like it's a huge part of Star Wars, like for fans. Like Boba Fett's armor is just as iconic as Darth Vader's armor is super iconic, but like Boba Fett's armor is just almost as iconic as Vader's because of the character that he is, and the fact that we're not seeing that much of him. I'm expecting the last episode to be this gigantic fight and Boba Fett remake his appearance and wearing the armor once again, and maybe fighting alongside Mando. But I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I think I don't think we'll see her. That's my personal prediction. I think we'll get our Mandalorian team again. I think we're getting Frog Lady because they love Frog Lady for some reason. I think we'll get like Cobb Vanth and showing up in the end of the show. I don't think we'll see Ahsoka Tano again. I feel like some of these characters will get left for future seasons.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised though if we see like Ahsoka and Ezra reuniting. That would be kind of cool. But you're right. It might not happen at the end of the season, but we need to have some kind of a showdown with Moff Gideon. Whether or not Mando is able to defeat him, or Gideon goes off and still maintains being the villain for the next season. But I want the season to stop jumping around from planet to planet so much. Like I want them to be on one planet for at least like 3 episodes, and at one point Baby Yoda has to be taken, or Grogu has to be taken away from the Mandalorian because there's been too many close calls, and it's going to happen sometime, and people are not going to like the episode because of it. But there needs to be a big moment with Grogu, life being in danger, and that's they need that they need to keep they're going in a trajectory upwards really, really fast, especially with Ahsoka and the introduction of Thrawn and all these characters. But something needs to happen to Baby Yoda in like the next couple of episodes that threatens him, because that's how you really grip the audience into keeping it back. And the Mandalorian has to be able to rescue him.
Yeah, I think it's one of two paths going. He's either number one, where you get the Tython next episode, and then sort of deal with our 2-part finale after that. But I think the other option is we end up getting sidetracked on our way to Tython. That sort of gets us into our finale conflict, and he ends up getting there at the end of the season. Those are the 2 options I think we have laying in front of us.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, Kev, thanks all the time. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, is there any social media plus people want to follow you at that you can give them?
They can just follow me at Castro Photo on Instagram. That's my astrophotography website. I'm waiting for the next alignment of Jupiter and Saturn will be the closest to the Earth in 800 years on December 21st, which is the winter solstice, which makes me start to wonder if the Mayans actually had a typo and the end of the world is happening in 2021 and not 2012. So yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to taking those pictures. And you can follow me on Castrophoto, or go to my website, castrophoto.com, as well, to see any other astrophotography pictures that I take.
All right, Kevin.
That's it.
Thanks again. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Mike. All the best. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.